Anti-meta actually showed up out of the top 32 of this weekend's YCS in Chile, and we actually have some other decks to talk about. A big 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys miss out more awesome content. What made me turn on the camera and even want to talk about more deck list out here was this right here. Stun actually peeked through the cracks of this weekend's event and actually did something. Now there will be some other decks here. I also want to talk about the Runick deck, made top 16, but evidently the Runick deck and the Stun deck played each other in top 32, which is so disappointing because this magical creature could have actually advanced if it had actually got the chance to play other, matchups here. So kind of keep that in mind. But what's interesting to me about this list here is the fact that we are using Fallen of Albaz as an actual, hear me out for a second, a control engine. This is actually kind of unique. I like this. One of the things that Stun kind of wanted was a boss monster. I mean, you have to understand that Valsadina Pachycephalo is 1200 is okay, but there's so many monsters now that look at 1200 and go pathetic, and they actually attack over it. So that's the biggest thing here is you need this for your going first section of things. You also have Jaugen here as well. So the interesting part about this is we're doing a split axis package here. So this lets us kind of clean up boards going second, which is kind of something that we needed. Same thing here with the Gamma Seals, and then you also technically have Jaugen to clean up a field, but let's be honest here, this probably, you're not going to get that discard effect actually to go off. Maybe there's always a possibility, but there definitely is something that you could really pull off here. I also like the fact that we're playing Gammas here as a defensive package to let this deck actually make some plays. I mean, Ecclesia is a free extender, and it does toggle into punishment. I mean, let's be honest here, punishment is the best, 1 for 2 that exist in the game in modern era. Yeah, it's a trap, it's slow, but it does its job. Now you're also probably going to look at this and you're going to go, really, we're playing Crackdown out here? Well, Crackdown lets you take an opponent's monster, which means if you can use this as a choking point to make sure that they can't advance combo anymore, that's what you're gonna get with this. All right, that's the whole main reason. I mean, you're playing the best 1-for-1s that you kind of can. You got Compulse, you have the Crackdowns, and you have the Ring of Destructions here to cover your bases for that. Also, Ring of Destruction does at least accelerate the gameplay for you by taking down your opponent's life points. That is one thing that you got to really consider here is, you do need the way to accelerate the game, and if this pop off something relatively decent, well, congratulations, you've done your job. And we kind of round out the main deck here with Solemn Strike, but it definitely, if you're looking at the main deck here, yeah, it is Fallen of Albaz with anti-meta cards, but this does meet the criteria to also double side as a stun deck, which, I mean, once again, we've seen Eldritch dropping in the branded package here and using it, as a boss monster to actually get the deck going. Now, what's interesting down here is, hi, Super Poly. What do we got down here in the Super Poly department? We got some Starving Venom, we got Mud, we got some Mirror Jades, technically. We have Double Garua, we got some, this is never going to be made. We actually played the Dragon Knight Draco quest. I mean, hey, you know what, a Dragon Synchro plus a Warrior, sometimes but not all the time. We actually play Albion. Yeah, this is actually hilarious to, yeah, I know what we're doing with this. I played enough Yu-Gi-Oh! To know that Jaugen's coming back. And then, of course, I mean, you have Albion, so your Synchro bases are pretty covered. I also like the fact that because we are playing Gamma, you get to toggle up into an Omega or, Baron to Flow, whichever route you want to go down here. You have the multi-path option available to you. And then, of course, I mean, the rest of this is just going to be very strong meta cards. I mean, you have Ashes for hand traps, you have Bite Steals for defense, you have your additional Kaiju and Lava Golems if need be. This you get to, shenanigans your Super Heavy Samurai players with. You have some defensive options here with Super Poly. And then, of course, Anti-Spell Fragrance. It's hilarious to me that, oh, good old Stun out here, the deck that wants to be able to, play spells actually is kind of relying on this. So I think that this build patches a lot of the issues that modern era stun kind of has going for it. And that's a good thing, honestly. The fact that you can cover your bases here and see something like this creep out into the woodwork here is very, very good. I'll clap for this. This was beautiful. Out of top 16, we also, this top 16, top 32, it's one of the two. There's two Super Heavy Samurai lists for this video. All things considered here, Super Heavy Samurai, a lot of these builds tend to look the same, and I will go on record every time that I cover this deck and go, yeah, there's always one thing that does stick out to me, though. Hi, we're playing Meteor Burst Dragon here. This card special summon, target one card in your Pendulum Zone, special summon it, and you cannot attack for the rest of this turn. I mean, sure, man, I don't care if my level 7 can't attack. I get to summon up a free scale? Don't mind if I do! That means I get a free extender here to do things. We're also playing the Samsara Saroken here. As well, what is this? Just lets us immediately synchro summon during the opponent's turn. And if this is in the graveyard, target one of the synchro monster in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck and special summon this card by banishment and leaves the field. Okay, so this just, if we have to reload up an asset for the grind game, this actually lets us do that. That's pretty good. All things considered here for, you know, Super Heavy Samurai innovations, for what you want to call them here. The fact that we have a build here that's kind of starting to mess around a little bit more in the extra deck, trying out different ratios of things here, I think is pretty cool. Especially, I haven't seen a single soul up to this point actually testing out Odd Eye's Meteor Dragon, and I think that that's kind of cool in and itself. So yeah, those are the first things that stick out to me about this list, and really about it. Next up here we have our, oh boy, I was super excited to see this. We actually had a Runick deck creep its way into Top Cut here. Now, what's actually very interesting to me about this is we've actually started cutting back on fountains, which is kind of wild to me, because fountain is one of those cards that you kind of always usually want to see a 3 of. But what I think is interesting about this is we tucked in one copy of Time Tearing Morganite. Now, I've actually not had the chance to test this card, but the working theory here is, you know, getting a draw 2 instead of 1 during every draw phase is literally worth it on every plane of existence, because this deck is going to want to grind. All right, you are going to need those resources, and I mean, also, you do play some bricks. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, Ghost and Skill Drain, and there can only be one. In multiples, if your opponent doesn't out these, they do start turning in 2 effective dead draws. So you're going to have to kind of alleviate, you know, those bad draws by trying to edge things out in the deck to make sure, well, hey, you know, like if I see one of these, it's effectively not the end of the world. The next thing that draws my attention down here is Dark Bribe. I've seen 3 Runick lists this format, and every one of them has cut Solemn Judgment to play Dark Bribe. Now, to be honest with you, I assume it's probably a time thing, but giving your opponent a draw 1 still seems a little bit of an issue to me. But, you know, getting the beneficial value out of this card to negate a spell or trap card is going to be probably pretty good, and that's going to be something that I think will come up in certain matchups for this deck to kind of do its thing. You'll also notice up here that we are main decking the Lava Golems. We're back into that board breaker format, so Amano Awato kicks it to the back. You see the Lava Golems have to come in here to kind of handle things. And then down here in the side deck, you're going to have to rely on, well, cards to generate good effects and pressure the opponent. So you're going to see things here like the Inspector Border, which, unlike Amano Awato, this will actually, you know, stick around for a turn. Remember, I mean, giving your opponent 1 effect if you really need to. We at least have this for Super Heavy Samurai, clean up Aisle 9. This is literally free real estate, because all of your spells will literally give you the chance to step into the Vanity's Fiend, so you get the chance to apply pressure through this. So that's actually kind of nice. And I mean, extra deck, I mean, doesn't really matter all that much. You have a resource here that does kind of matter. Also, I mean, playing Pot of Prosperities over some of the other filtering assets is kind of interesting, but okay. Then we have our last Super Heavy Samurai list out of the event, and all things considered here, I'm not all that surprised to, see that we're still doing the exact same things. We had our Bysteel package down here. We got the Archfiends, Ghost Ogres for control, the Spider Orchid. The extra deck down here is playing Masuro. A lot of the builds I've seen have not actually gone towards Masuro. I feel like this is just one of those additional little combo choices that you get. I think you get, like maybe one flexible text slot here that you can kind of adjust things on and be able to, see what different variations of things that you want to do. So it's kind of cool to actually see this. But outside of that, I mean, we're not playing Fenrir. We opted for the one Pankratops. I mean, you have a lot of genuine push here for the deck. So that wraps up everything that we have seen today out of the YCS. I was expecting more at this point, but I'll take this. So please, leave a comment down below to what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.